For my daughter, Kess. The rain came quietly that morning, like a whisper over glass. It was the kind of rain that seemed to remember things. Old goodbyes, broken promises, fading songs. Inside the small bedroom, Daniel sat by the window with a pen in hand, his breath shallow, his fingers trembling. The letter in front of him was the hardest thing he'd ever written. He looked at the paper for a long time before the first words finally came. My dearest Kess, if you're reading this, I am already gone. You're too young to remember much of me, and maybe that's for the best. I want you to grow up sweet and beautiful. Trust God, my little girl. Believe that love is stronger than anything, even death. And if one day you think of me, smile instead of crying. That's what I'd want. But Kess, never forgive me. Love, Daddy. He folded the page with shaking hands, slipped it into an envelope, and wrote her name on it with care, as though writing it made her real, made her safe. Made her safe. Then he placed it inside the wooden box he built for her, the one with the carved heart on the lid, and whispered, Someday, sweetheart. Someday, you'll understand. That night, he closed his eyes for the last time, the rain still whispering against the glass. 14 years later. Kess stood in the attic, sunlight spilling through the dusty window like pale gold. She'd come home from university for the weekend to help her mother clear out old boxes. Her mother had gone to the kitchen for tea, leaving Kess to sort through years of forgotten things. Baby clothes, faded photos, the scent of lavender and thyme. And then she saw it. The wooden box. Her name carved into the lid in a handwriting she didn't recognize. Soft, deliberate, full of love. Her fingers traced the letters. She lifted the lid. Inside was a folded letter, the paper yellowed, the ink faint, but still legible. She opened it, eyes narrowing, heart pounding. By the time she reached the words, "Never forgive me," her hands were shaking. "Dad," she whispered, the word strange and fragile on her tongue. She hadn't said it in years. Not really. Not since she was little. Because according to her mother, she never had a father. Memories. That night she couldn't sleep. The words of the letter wouldn't let her. Images flickered in her mind like old film reels. A man's voice humming lullabies, hands that lifted her high into the air, the smell of soap and pine. She remembered a beard brushing her cheek, a laugh, a shadow leaving her room after telling her goodnight. She remembered him. The next morning, she confronted her mother. The confrontation. Her mother stood at the kitchen sink, sunlight reflecting off the window, her face calm. Too calm. "Mom," Kess said quietly, holding out the letter. "Who wrote this?" Her mother froze. Her hands went still under the water. "Where did you get that?" she asked, voice unsteady. "In the attic. In a box with my name. You told me Dad died before I was born, that I never met him." Her mother turned slowly, eyes glassy with something between fear and sorrow. "Kess, you shouldn't have found that." "So, it's true?" Kess pressed. "He wrote this? He was alive when I was little?" Her mother nodded once, tears welling. He loved you more than life itself. But he was sick. He wasn't himself toward the end. I didn't want you to remember him that way." "What does he mean, never forgive me?" Kess asked, her voice trembling. "What did he do?" Her mother hesitated, then sank into a chair. "He blamed himself for something that wasn't his fault. The accident that killed your brother before you were born. He never forgave himself. He thought God was punishing him through the sickness." The words hung heavy in the air. Kess felt her throat tighten, her heart aching for a man she barely remembered but somehow loved. The visit. Later that evening, She went alone to the old churchyard where her mother said he'd been buried. The sun was setting, painting the sky in bruised orange and gold. She found his grave, simple, unadorned, the name Daniel Hart carved softly into the stone. She knelt down, the letter in her hand, the breeze brushing her hair. "Hi, Dad," she whispered. "It's Kess. I found your letter." She smiled through tears. "I grew up sweet and beautiful. At least, that's what Mom says. I trust God, like you asked, but that last part, about not forgiving you, I can't do that, because I do." She placed the letter on his grave, smoothing the paper flat with her palm. "I forgive you, Daddy," she whispered, "and I love you." The wind stirred, carrying the faint scent of rain, and for a fleeting moment, just as the first drops began to fall, she thought she heard a man's voice humming softly through the rustling trees. A lullaby. One she hadn't heard since she was 6. Back at home, her mother sat alone in the kitchen, holding the wooden box. She opened the drawer and took out another folded letter, one she'd kept hidden for years. It was addressed to my love. She smiled sadly and whispered, "She forgave you, Daniel, just like I knew she would." Outside, the rain began to fall harder, tapping softly on the window, like fingers keeping time to a long-forgotten song.